In today's video on how quickly I can give myself a nervous breakdown, we will be attempting to beat Halo 2 on Legendary, as a Marine. Now I know what you were thinking, Baps, Halo 2 on Legendary is the hardest in the series. Are you this insane? Yes. Yes I am. Now for those of you who are familiar with the unfair difficulty of Halo 2's Legendary, know that this is no joke. Whereas Halo Combat Evolved's Legendary difficulty was a tough but fair challenge, Halo 2's Legendary takes all the fairness and throws it in the bin. The enemies are more aggressive, the accuracy is deadly, the checkpoints are few and far between, and the Chief is the second most weakest thing in the game, next to a Flood Infection form. Playing normal Halo 2 Legendary tests every last ounce of my patience, so to attempt it as a Marine, well, this is going to be interesting. We're going to be using the Halo 2 Trooper mod, created by Dreary Muscle 5. The link is in the description. This mod is played in third person, with sniper rifles being in first person. We also have the health and animations of the Marine, and thankfully, no stun lock this time. In order to counter the fact that the standard Marine has slightly more health than the Chief in Halo 2, we'll be adding some skulls to change up the gameplay from a lemon and herb to something a little more spicy. However, we're not just going to be playing as a Marine for this playthrough. This mod has also replaced the Arbiter with an Honor Guard. But even though an Honor Guard is a high-ranking member of the Covenant military, playing as the Honor Guard, I still get torn apart on Legendary, don't worry. But it also means I am no better than the average Marine, and I'm still the second weakest thing in the game, just with active camo. These changes made something that was fun for the whole family into something serial killers played in their basement, and it wouldn't be out of place to find on trial for war crimes. But with that in mind, and coming off the high of beating Halo 1 as a Marine, I wasn't going to back down from this challenge. The Halo 2 Fever Dream starts almost immediately, as we hold a ceremony to honour the life of Dave the Marine, who died in Mission 2 of our Halo Marine run. His girlfriend Miranda Keyes gladly accepts his medal in his name. The Marines have lost one of the best. May he forever rest peacefully. After getting interrupted by sexy enemy waifu, warning us that the Covenant wants the Captain's porn hard drive back that we kept from the Pillar of Autumn. Okay, I swear I'm not going to start this plot line again. We are then forced to defend the Cairo station from the Covenant boarding parties, with our homeboy, Sergeant Johnson, who has returned from the Halo books to fight by our side once more. After spawning in, I noticed a few things right away. The first was that we are now rocking the sexy Halo 2 ODST protection kit, instantly giving us that sex appeal bonus of plus 69%. Nice. And the second thing was that I had the MA5B assault rifle and God's personal pistol. It looks like our Marine, after surviving the events of Halo, kept a few items with him. Going off my headcanon that this is the same Marine who escaped the first game, this veteran had dealt with waves of Covenant before, so this first lot of Covenant should be easy. Okay, maybe not. Now you may have noticed that the Covenant are firing a lot faster than normal. That is because the Covenant military had gotten word that the lone Marine who destroyed the Halo wheel survived, and has since made the double tap perk from COD Zombies standard issue, along with the Covenant having received extra training to become more observant. Basically, I turned on the anger and the that's just wrong skull. With these skulls enabled, and with my body being made up of the same consistency of a digestive biscuit, we would be putting all our skills that we have learned from playing Halo 1 as a Marine into this steaming pool of diarrhea water. I did in fact consult my therapist beforehand, and they absolutely were against me doing this, but little did they know, I was going to do it anyway. I may slip into deep psychosis by doing so, but my mental health was at risk when I first had the idea to start doing challenge runs for a hobby, and like the deviant child that I am, I refused to play Halo 2 by its rules. Once the first lot of coveys were dealt with, I joined some Marines in clearing out some more Covenant before I made it to the first Pelican Bay, and it was here that I remembered one of the reasons why I don't play Halo 2 on Legendary as much as the others, and I'm not even talking about them yet. This room was our first real obstacle of the run, causing me to countlessly get sent back to the last checkpoint. Much like Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow, I just kept throwing myself in, and learning what I could in hopes to do better. And what I learnt was that elite mages are more of a dick than the first game, but that's nothing new really. After questioning some of my life choices, we finally made it past the waves of Covenant, only to watch the Malta get destroyed. Once the fireworks display was over, we made our way towards the second Pelican Bay, and let me say here is where the game decided to kick me square in the joy department. Fuck! As up to this point, I was actually kinda having fun playing Halo 2 again, but Legendary has this nasty habit of showing its ugly side, and playing the slightest bit recklessly could see us fast travelling back to the start of most encounters, which I could demonstrate for you here. After around 30 minutes of trying to clear this room, and once the red had finally faded from my vision, Cortana informed us that the Covenant are attempting to download the pawn from the server room, so we must hurry before they download the servers. Okay, I know I said I'd stop this storyline, but it somehow keeps making its way back into this script, so we're just gonna roll with it. After witnessing Master Guns get some karma after giving us some new armor.
Your new armor shields are extremely resilient, very efficient. Extremely resilient, extremely resilient, extremely resilient, extremely resilient.
We blast past some more coveys and exchange some pleasantries with Miranda and Johnson before taking a stroll out in space. And coming face to face with an enemy I have a larger hatred for than the jackals. The drones. I didn't even survive 5 seconds on their first encounter before I collapsed into the ground harder than I do on a Saturday night. Honestly, if you thought I hated the jackals as much as I do, then these guys get it so much worse. They are truly the incarnation of a rapid-firing pistol goblin, and the fact that they come in swarms sends me into fits of psychosis. But after pushing through the hate, I was at the end of the mission before I knew it, clearing out the elites guarding the hard drive that they had smuggled onto the Cairo station, and were using it to download the servers of Pawn. Roughly 30 minutes later, all the elites have been dealt with, and the chief decided now was a good time to come out of nowhere and proceed to steal the Covenant's external hard drive all to himself. While our ODST boards a Pelican and heads down to New Mombasa. As we're on our romantic flight through the city, our Pelican ends up getting shot down by an AT-AT, and after doing our best impression of Captain Keyes' landing attempt, Cortana seems to hit her head a bit too hard again.
Blink if you can hear me, Chief.
As she keeps on calling me the Chief. Regardless, we start off by shooting this grunt in the head and his troglodyte friends. After running around the courtyard for a bit, the bane of my existence decided to make itself known. It seems that the Jackals have now joined the FaZe clan and started to show off their sniping skills and begin to manhandle our little ODST. The odds were stacked against me here, but with each respawn, I was able to memorize where the Jackals would come from, so we can give them some tasteception and give the Jackals a taste of the medicine that the Jackals had given us a taste of, that we originally gave the taste of the Jackals back in Halo 1.
What are you talking about?
Anyways, with the spawns memorized and stealing Johnson's sniper rifle, this area wasn't that much of an issue. Now you may have noticed the lack of noob combos happening here so far. That's for normies. The noob combo is most people's go-to when they play Halo 2 on Legendary, as it is the fastest way to take down an elite. But my rule so far was not to use this tactic, well, at least as little as possible. In fact, I only think I used it 3 times in the whole playthrough. Once on the Cairo station in the hangars, and the other you'll see later. Meanwhile, with only a few deaths under my belt so far, I thought this challenge was going to be easy. That was until the hunters decided it was time to bash my back gates in and join the party that we had been having. Now, as much as I love the fact that Bungie buffed the hunters for Halo 2, but the hunters in Halo 2 do come with their flaws. Like if you throw a plasma grenade at them, they are forced to do a Windows reboot and will stand still in place for a few seconds, contemplating their existence, giving you enough time to shoot them with a sniper. Maybe don't try and take them down with an SMG like I tried to do here. Honestly, I had no idea what I was doing here, by the way. After having my human rights violated by the hunters, we moved on to Sniper Alley. We sadly part ways with our boy Johnson, as he said there was no way in hell he was taking part in this part of the game. And I can't blame him if I'm being honest. This section wouldn't have been as bad as room temperature milk if it wasn't for my lack of ammo. After getting unfairly executed by Sniper Jackal's 360 no-scoping me, I almost got sent into cardiac arrest when a stealth elite with a sword came out of nowhere and made a cute attempt on my life to try and unalive me. After calming my nerves with a quadruple vodka Red Bull, we immediately got sniped in the face, bringing my blood pressure back up to a staggering 67.5%. As if my hatred for the flightless tree goblins wasn't bad enough, now it seems they have mastered the ability to annoy me without me even being able to see them. The Covenant here in this alley were absolute demons, and currently the ability to defend ourselves was limited to the damage output of an old back scratcher. This meant we were basically f***ed. Whilst replaying most of this brain rot again, I had time to think what strategy I could use here. In the end, I ended up praying to RNGesus that we would make it through this time. A few burst blood vessels later, we had finally made it out of the alley and to the hotel, where I found a Marine hiding in the closet.
What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
Next on the menu was a main course of a Warthog Drive section, with a side dish of death. And by that I mean the Halo 2 Warthog seems to be held together with Phil Swift's flex tape.
Look at all this damage!
And the slightest sneeze seems to deal significant damage to the Warthog. With our pro driving skills, we're able to make it through most of the tunnel with no issues, aside from a few deaths, but that really doesn't count. With our Warthog having seen better days, and coming up to the final part of the tunnel, where some coveys have set up shop, and we have no choice but to clench our bum holes and make a drive for it. First 2 attempts we died, but on the third, we managed to make it past them, making our way out of the tunnel. where we are greeted by Johnson, lovingly giving us a tank like the sexy alpha male that he is. We get informed that the Covenant Scarab on the other side of the bridge was able to download some of the Cairo station's pawn collection, so he must use the tank to get across the bridge and get the pawn back. Honestly, I have no idea where this pawn storyline is going. I should have stopped it a long time ago. But I don't think I'm going to. Using the 66 tons of fun to roll across the bridge, we clear out the local postcode worth of ghosts and flying wildlife, aka banshees. That just never seemed to end. Once on the other side of the bridge, we deal with the wraiths and the harassment from the banshees.
Do you honestly think you're fucking funny?
I sadly had to leave my tank here, as she was a bit too big to fit through this gap.
Can't make it, the shit.
Oh wait, never mind. It turns out the tank can fit through here. I honestly didn't know the tank could fit through this gap. I was messing around trying to get the clip for the meme and it fit through. Honestly, having the tank in here made this section that is normally a headache so much easier, as you can imagine. I don't think that the Covenant were expecting a tank to roll on over the barricade. I did however try to take the tank a bit further, but sadly here is where the tank was just too big to fit. We managed to sneak up behind this fart sniffer and give him a well-deserved punch in the back of the skull, before jumping down onto the Gauss cannon of this warthog and going to town on the ghosts and local population of sniper jackals. This felt so good to do. After our little therapy session with the Gauss cannon, we kick the Marine out the driver's seat and pull off some Fast and Furious style drifting before taking out 2 more wraiths. Cortana seemed to think that the wraiths were the biggest threat, but she clearly didn't see the sniper jackals around this area. Luckily, the Marine on the gun used his soggy biscuit IQ and took them out first. I would have liked to have named him Dave 3.0, but we were not together for that long to form a bond. Or maybe I'm still not over the loss of the original Dave. Upon making my way inside the building, the Marines seemed to have me confused with someone else.
When I asked for reinforcements, I didn't think they'd send a Spartan.
How is no one able to grasp the fact that I'm not the chief? Regardless, we stand by and watch as this giant basket on legs takes out a tank.
I'm a firing my laser!
One very dead meme later, we give chase in hopes to board the Scarab and retrieve the stolen pawn. Now, firing rockets at the elites on board may seem a bit overkill, but I'm still slightly bitter about how many times they've ulted forward me so far in this playthrough. Once on board, I used a downgraded Halo 2 shotgun to take out the remaining crew members, and the Ultra Elite who I thought was going to give me some issues, but ended up going down like a sack of potatoes. We take out the last Elite's guard in the hard drive and end up destroying the Scarab, so that the Covenant would never be able to access the pawn again. As the alpha male attempts to pick us up in the Pelican, Miranda is informed that the Covenant have managed to upload the contents of the hard drive to their ship, and are now looking to make their escape. Determined to get it back, she flies up close to the Covenant ship as it nukes the city and kickstarts the events of Fallout 4. Meanwhile, after being dragged out of Tartarus' sex dungeon, we are tasked by the floating pickled eggs to find and kill the Heretic leader, who has been leaving some negative comments on some YouTube videos. What a dick. Anyway, with the Prophet's blessing, this mission kickstarts as you would imagine, by me getting unalived straight away. Once we mopped up these nerds, we proceed down the ramps. Now I will admit, it was pretty tricky to aim, as the Honor Guard's massive helmet was in the way 90% of the time, but I eventually got used to it. Even with the Elite's active camo, I was still no match for these troglodytes, and my deaths were starting to rack up. However, one short elevator ride down, we learned that the Sentinels had teamed up with these hate comment heretics, so we added these mindless cretins to our list of people to mess up. I found the best tactic here was to take advantage of the active camo and attack from different sides, and when close enough, give them a rectal exam with our energy sword. A few deaths later, we managed to open up the hangar bay doors, and the Phantom dropped off some reinforcements. That lasted all of 4 seconds before they got wrecked. Before moving on to the next area, I accidentally commit an act of friendly fire. It wasn't my fault, he got in my way. Now I will admit this next area provided some serious headaches, but being the calm person that I am, and with some well-timed shots and me hiding behind a crate like a little bitch, we managed to make our way through this area with not that much issues. Making our way down these ramp sections was pretty easy, that's why I didn't mention the last one, but all I really did was take advantage of the active camo and the sword. That's really it. Before I knew it, we watched the Heretic leader run away in a Banshee, not long after we gave chase and becoming what we feared the most. We had become the flying wildlife that we had feared so much. Now I'd like to say that these Banshee sections were easy, but I'd be wrong. With the combination of the Angus skull and my Banshee being made up with paper mache, leading to several blood vessels to burst simultaneously. I will admit, in the end I got fed up with being one-shotted by a fuel rod, and decided just to go straight for the platform where the Heretic leader had gone. This mission was over before I even knew it, and even though I died a few times, the fight in Heretics was fairly straightforward, as there were only really elites and grunts to deal with. And the fact that the Heretic elites don't do any melee damage to the player made getting close to them not really a threat. Now at this point I was beginning to think that the elite missions would be the easiest part of this run. Oh boy would I be wrong. As we enter the building, the shipmaster gets a whiff of one of the elites who farted right as he entered the building.
Disgusting!
Moving inside, we hear what must be a sick party happening below us. In the next room, we overhear the grunts having the most intelligent discussion of all time.
We have bad feeling about this. Always have bad feeling. You had bad feeling about morning food nipple.
Not long afterwards, a grunt gets frightened by a hologram of the heretic leader, but before we could shit on this hate commenter even further, we get jumped by the flood. And because I actually used my room temperature IQ for once, I destroyed the bodies as I entered the room, so the flood infection forms were all we had to deal with. We press on to what must be the most exciting moment of the game. The elevator ride. Now, Halo 2 is known for having many sections like this where we are forced to stay in one location and hold out for a while, most likely to drag out the game's runtime. This section is so bad that even the shipmaster didn't want to take part. But despite the fact the only real threat here is the Flood, the Sentinels, and me. And by myself, I mean of course because I'm an absolute tool, that I kept falling off the elevator, leading to me being here longer than I would have liked. Honestly, I must have fallen off like 3 times in this section. I guess I must keep the trend going as I fell off the elevator in Halo CE, now in Halo 2. Halo 3's elevators, I'm coming for you. We were jolted back to reality when the world's slowest elevator ride had finished, only to realise that we had once again come up to another room where we must hold out against waves of Flood and Heretics. This room had a few close calls, but luckily with the active camo and hiding behind a pillar, this room was dealt with fairly quickly. We were able to make it outside and get reunited by more friendlies, who didn't really last long on the way up the spiral ramp. We take some pot shots at the heretic leader, but he ends up cock-blocking us by hiding behind his virginity shield.
God damn it!
Causing us to come up with this 300 IQ play of cutting the station loose before we were able to follow him. Once that idea was cemented in our forehead, we say goodbye to the shipmaster, who so far had done nothing to contribute to this mission. We make our way up the elevator onto the roof to cut down the 3 cables holding up the station. Now I would have done this first try, but as soon as the station started to fall, I was yeeted outside of the map, forcing me back to the start and have to do this section all over again. Attempt number 2 goes a lot smoother as I hide under the walkway when the station starts to fall. With this boost of serotonin to my brain, we begin making our way back down and past the shielded door. A few heretics tried to stop us, but by now I've mastered the sword and carbine combo. Actually, that's total dog shit. Once we got past the greatest swordsman who ever lived, we were forced into another Banshee section where I swear to you, I didn't even last 5 seconds before I died, making the vein in my forehead bulge. Banshee sections in this game are not a pleasant experience. After we expertly land, we began to give chase to the heretic leader to what is honestly a pretty cool section. Going back through the previous level, but as the environment begins to decay around us, it really gives you the feeling of I need to get out of here now. I didn't really have much issues with this part, but the heretic leader boss fight was not fun. This was certainly a fight that would keep my cortisol levels nice and high, just how I like them. With 3 rapid-firing plasma rifles firing at my fragile body, you only had to guess how long I would survive. Spoiler alert, it wasn't long. Now this boss fight took me almost half an hour to get past. In the end, I resorted to hiding right at the back, camoing, and taking pot shots at the holograms, before being able to charge at the heretic leader with my sword. I legit threw my arms up in happiness when I saw the leader finally fall. After explaining to Guilty Spark why we had to unalive the heretic leader, Tartarus interrupts us as he steals the floating testicle all to himself, to take back to his sex dungeon. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the humans have discovered a second Halo wheel, causing Johnson to almost die again by choking on his cigar.
Say what?
We get informed that the ship that had stolen the porn data had stopped just above the ring world, and we end up recreating the drop cutscene from Helldivers 2. This certainly wasn't the red carpet entrance we were expecting, as pretty much right away, clearing out this little section led me to die so much from elites and needlers that almost led me to having a mental breakdown. Oh yeah, sniper jackals are all over this level as well, which only added to the pleasure I felt while playing this game. I was starting to question if I was blackout drunk on my last legendary playthrough, because I do not remember struggling this much, but that might be the skulls I added, I just don't know. I also tried to give my fellow ODSTs a rocket launcher to help take the pressure off me, but I'm pretty sure that the Marine AI in Halo 2 is being operated by Bing, and he unalived himself, as a few seconds later I found him lying on the floor. Despite the 18 deaths beginning to rip my soul apart, I finally was able to make it inside the building, and we were told to hold our position once again. Honestly, there are so many holdout sections in this game, I never really noticed until now. This holdout section wasn't too bad, as I had stolen a giant chicken's beam rifle, and I was able to snipe the elites before they became a real pain in my backside. I did however get second-hand embarrassment for this one stealth elite, as he almost pulled a sneaky on us by coming up behind me, but he was no match for the beam rifle to the face, and before I knew it, this fight was over. Cortana then informs us about the possibility of the Prophet being in the center of the lake, and that is where our pawn hard drive most likely is. And when our Amazon Prime order was delivered, we turn the corner and come face to face with 4 sniper cretins that our Marines were able to deal with permanently. Our Warthog had seen better days as we began to clear the building in order to extend the bridge. The gunner of the Warthog, however, was able to mop up the ghosts and local resistance, allowing me to enter the building and throw this Hail Mary of a grenade that took out this elite shields, allowing me to one-shot him. Amazing. With the bridge lowered, we can begin to make our way across once Johnson the Sex Machine drops off the tank. Wait, what just happened? Did the Marine who got flung from the Warthog just land on my head and kill me?
What the fuck?
After crying to the police about the absolute violation I just received, we put on our big boy pants and get into the tank, and we begin to bring the pain to anyone who dares get in our way. Also, I don't know if you have ever noticed this, but this part has a ridiculous number of ghosts coming at you. I mean, I lost count at how many ghosts kept coming around the corner at every turn. I mean, where did the Covenant keep getting all these things? After we had committed genocide on the ghost population, we make our way to another structure and roll our 66 tons of pure sexiness onto the top and get our Deliveroo order dropped off to us. But the saving grace, however, is as soon as I got out the tank, it exploded.
Ooh, that was close.
We do, however, get more Marines dropped off, but like some sick joke, as soon as their feet touched the floor, one blew up instantly. I guess the game likes to see me suffer. As soon as we move inside, the last of our Marines gets gunned down, and I'm forced to do this alone once again. We show off our COD no-scoping skills, forcing this elite to run away and for us to chase him down. Now this next part gave my brain a rage-induced migraine. The combination of sniper jackals, elites, and swarms of drones gave me more issues than I would like to admit, as I would just get gunned down by a drone or sniped in the face by a little goblin.
Right, I'll tell you what, go and fuck yourself.
After what felt like hours of frustration, countless deaths, and more rage quits than I care to admit, we finally made it to the final stretch of the mission, and I felt the feeling of relief. That was until I instantly got put down by another swarm of drones. Once we had made it inside, we then had to deal with the honor guards, and these guys were more trouble than they were actually worth. This led me to using the tactic of leading them away one by one to follow me, and dealing with them as soon as they wanted to show me where they were going to stick their pointy things. And after burning through 90% of my ammo, we had beat the mission. Cortana informs us that the Prophet plans to upload the pawn that he stole to the Covenant Holy City and pleads us not to allow that to happen. I really have no idea where I'm going with this storyline, by the way, so yeah. Moving on. With our ammo supply looking bleak, it wasn't long before the Marines were trying their absolute best to stress test my patience right out the gate, as it didn't survive longer than 5 seconds. But you know me by now, I wasn't going to throw in the towel just because this floating pickled egg said so. So after a few deaths, we were finally able to clear out the elites rushing into us, and we were greeted by wow paint me surprised and call me Chips Dubbo, some more sniper jackals, as a shot just about missed my face. With my blood pressure now through the roof and with this area crawling with sniper jackals, a positive, if there was such a thing as one, is that we'd gotten efficient at taking down these bastards. Actually, that's total dog shit. I wouldn't exactly say I was good at it, as they were still 80% of the time still killing me in one shot, but I was able to react to them a lot faster than I normally would have. As we approached an open area, we see that the Gondola had already left the platform and that a phantom was on fast approach. Getting ready for another fight, I wasn't however ready for more hunters to enter the fray. We get smacked around a few times as we battle the hunters and their anger issues, but we were finally able to put the hunters down using the grenade and beam rifle exploit. The hunters in Halo 2 are a step up from their CE counterpart, but they are let down by the fact you can still one-shot them. We get resupplied and joined by some more Marines, before going on a romantic boat ride. Crossing the water wasn't too much trouble, even though I almost had an existential crisis when I saw the drones come out the second gondola. Upon approach to the tower, I steal the sniper rifle from Stacker, and now was a good time to show off my stormtrooper aim and take 3 shots to take down 1 jackal. Moving inside, we clear out these nerds camping, and throw a grenade on top of the lift while it comes up, quickly taking out these fascists inside, before we take the lift down and go on our underwater adventure. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, this part I wasn't looking forward to doing. This section on my normal legendary run gave me PTSD alone, as this room has so many sniper jackals, a pair of hunters, and to top it off, drones and honor guards. I would rather go back and do the library on Lasso than do this room again. That may still happen though. We got defiled here. On our first attempt, this honor guard got a cheeky double sword kill on both me and Stacker. Attempt number 2 saw Stacker getting taken out by a sniper, and me, who didn't want to live in the world without Sergeant Stacker, followed his fate soon after. Attempts 3 and 4 just saw me getting gunned down by drones. I was struggling. It wasn't until our 11th attempt, and 20 minutes later, we'd finally made it to the other side of the room, and almost went into cardiac arrest when an ultra elite decided to come out these doors and try to ruin my day even further, but putting an illegal amount of beam rifle shots into him seemed to do the trick. We do some more sniping on a bunch of stealth elites, and we finally made our exit from this underwater place, and all it cost me was 2 Marines and my sanity. As soon as I exit the elevator, I introduce an elite and some grunts to my shotgun. I think they'll get along just fine. I end up throwing the Hail Mary of grenades once again, as I stick this elite right in the nads. But he had clearly taken offense to that and made it his mission to rush me and show me some karma. But he was met with a shotgun to the face. Never rush a madman with a shotgun. As we get more Marines dropped off, but like some bad joke, they do not last long. We take the final gondola ride over to the main building in the center of the lake. Now, it was coming to my attention that we were coming up to the end of the mission and the regret boss fight, and my body was not ready for that just yet. But whether I liked it or not, it was going to happen. So I prepared my body for the abuse I was about to receive and stepped off the platform. Time was now against us, however, as the Covenant Holy City of High Charity had arrived, and the Prophet had already started to upload the data from the hard drive he stole. So we rushed in the main doors, only to get instantly clapped by a bunch of elite mages. Honestly, these guys have killed me so much in this run, it is unreal. Once we get past the elites cockblocking us, we get cut down by a sword elite camping around a corner. Very nice. After a few deaths and putting a new hole into my desk, we were able to make it inside and about to give Regret a good old-fashioned fisting for stealing our pawn drive. Now, here is where I'd like to point out, on normal Legendary, you must board and punch the Prophet of Regret about 5 times to kill him, as the Chief. As a Marine, however, and with less melee damage output, I had to board him about 7 or 8 times, while a room filled with endless spawn and Covenant. I was in this room for over an hour. Roughly over 60% of the time I was finishing fisting Regret's face, I'd get killed by an elite, or a grunt camping in the area where we were. I had died so much in this section, that in the end, I resorted to using the noob combo once again, just to be able to deal with the number of elites that got thrown at me. I ended up using the punch in the face and run away back to the entrance where I could spam the checkpoint, while noob comboing any elite that followed me, and if you thought that this room as the Chief was bad, doing it as a Marine was aneurysm inducing. Despite this room making me want to eat glass, I kept pushing through. Death after death saw me coming back each time, and even though I was bashing my head against the wall and found new ways to die all over again, I remained hopeful. Hopeful that the next run would be the run. After an insane amount of noob combos, and once my F key had gotten enough abuse by me spamming the key just to fist Regret in the face, the floating pickled egg finally died, and we stopped the upload. Luckily, we were right by the exit, so as soon as I saw him fall, I legged it right out of there. I'm still amazed I got this done as quick as I did, to be honest with you. I thought I was going to be here for much longer. We watch as the Chief runs away with the hard drive in hand, before he jumps into the water and is suddenly abducted against his will by a weird tentacle thing. Back on High Charity, the elites greet each other like how me and my friends did in middle school. We are then tasked with finding the copy of the hard drive the Prophet of Regret hid before the lone ODST took him out. We hand the reins back over to the Arbiter and join him as the Sentinels try to protect the hard drive's location. Now these Sentinels hit harder than me on a Saturday— oh wait, I already made that joke. These Sentinels just keep coming. So to even the playing field, I focus on their spawn points before moving on to the lower levels. Now I don't know if you know this, but if you shoot the panels on these pillared things instead of pressing them, it pretty much does the same job, effectively saving you some time and you are able to move through the level much faster. This has saved my life over the years. On the lower levels we find a grunt and an ungrateful jackal, whose life I had just saved. So we show the jackal what happens when he doesn't say thank you. I will not lie to you, making our way towards the Sentinel Enforcer fight was not easy. The average Sentinel hits harder than my dad's belt, and if I didn't take out their spawn points, I was in for a world of hurt. However, after abusing the active camo some more, we were eventually able to make it to the Sentinel Enforcer mini-boss fight. Now I could just jump down and take out the panels by shooting them, as I mentioned earlier, and easily tackle this fight, but what would I be proving if I did that? As I watched this brave grunt get unfairly slaughtered, I knew in that moment, this Enforcer had to go down. So I took out all its arms, and then jumped down to get some better cover than a door frame. With the help of active camo here, I was able to do a few sneak attacks on the Enforcer, and it did eventually go down. The Sentinel Enforcers are not really that tough. It's just a case of getting behind or under them while avoiding other Sentinels around them. That's the real issue. Nonetheless, once the Enforcer was down, I rapidly took out the pillars, and I was able to reward myself with a relaxing moment, while I quickly called my therapist to inform them I was about 2/3 of the way through the game, and I was about to have an existential crisis as we're about to encounter the Flood once again. This time, they were Human Flood. Now, the Human Flood in this game have received a buff from their CE days, as they are faster, come in larger numbers, and have had quite the intelligence boost. Not only do the human combat forms pose an issue here, but the Sentinels have also got an upgrade in the form of a Golden Sentinel that have a nice blue powerful beam, and shields, and to top this section off, another Enforcer also joins the fight. This section alone took me almost 20 minutes to get past, and that might not sound as bad as some sections on Halo 2, but when you get so close and parkour your way past, only to get put down by Sentinels hunting you down, then it becomes a problem. Eventually, I was able to get past all that, but now my only weapons were an SMG and a pistol, and I don't have to tell you that this combo on Halo 2 Legendary isn't ideal. But it was the only ammo that was available to me, until I was able to pick up the shotgun that dealt as much damage to the Flood as me throwing mashed potato at them. I got to listen to this audio clip of Marines dying to the Flood so many times now, that it now nurses my aneurysm to soothe it at night. But yeah, I died here a few times. More than I would like to admit that I did. After getting abused enough for me to start to enjoy it, honestly, I think I'm starting to enjoy the abuse I get from these challenge runs. We were eventually able to make it to the section that made Halo 2 feel like a horror game. Honestly, as a horror fan, if I could praise Halo 2 for something, it would be how Bungie designed the Flood levels. They honestly feel like a horror game at parts, and I think that's why one of the reasons I would love to see the Flood return. But this part really made me poo my pants as a kid. Still kinda does, to be honest. I do think it was a really cool attention to detail for Bungie to only include the human combat forms and carrier forms up to this point, but as soon as you find elite bodies, then elite combat forms come into play. Just like the previous Arbiter mission where the only Flood you encountered were elite combat forms, I just thought that was a really nice attention to detail. But just like the overly aggressive crackhead in town always asking me for money, the Flood never seemed to leave me alone, and much like the crackhead in town assaulting me once in a while, I received a shotgun to the face and was sent back to the last checkpoint. Which was nothing new really, but the Halo 2 checkpoint system thought it was having a laugh at this point and sent me back to what seemed like 2 checkpoints ago. After repeating the last 5 minutes of my life once again, I was able to join up with some friendly elites who seemed to not last long at all, but I didn't seem to last much longer before I got slapped to death. Once the blood vessel in my forehead had burst, we reached the shipmaster's holdout. He questioned what we were doing here, but this was my mission to get the hard drive and not his, so I questioned what he was doing here. But he just stood there, passing the time by watching his favourite Twitch streamer, and thus another holdout section begins. I started to feel like a store employee on Black Friday while I held back wave after wave of Flood. I still found myself being overrun as the elites by my side began to fall, but not long after, the Phantom pulls up carrying more elite reinforcements, and the shipmaster finally got off his turret that he had been spamming the whole fight. Right, I'll be honest and say that I wasn't looking forward to this mission. The Flood in this mission gave me some grief, and we all know that the Flood hate everything, but I can confirm the feeling is mutual. After getting into the best vehicle in all of Halo, we are instantly greeted by another Enforcer. I decided to nope out there as fast as possible, and by that I mean I forgot that the Spectre had a boost. Now this part made me rethink my life choices. Well, the first time round wasn't that bad, as we got past everything with no problem. And I thought I was actually making progress on this mission. I was enjoying myself. I was having a laugh and having fun. Until I wasn't. I ended up dying here, and the game reminded me that it hadn't given me a checkpoint in the last 3 minutes, and decided to put me right back to the beginning of the whole encounter.
Really?
Honestly, when I saw where I got sent back to, I began to wonder what in the Reese's Pieces had just happened here. I swore so much that my dog thought I was having a fit, and I probably was. As the next attempt starts off great with me getting my cheeks clapped by the Flood-controlled ghosts. I then had the great 300 IQ play of stealing the Scorpion tank and blasting my way past everything. But my young naive brain forgot that the Scorpion tank in Halo 2 is made out of soggy cardboard and crumbles apart as soon as I get into it. After a few more embarrassing attempts, we finally made it past all the wraiths trying to 360 no-scope me. We made it to this thing. I have no idea what this part is. I would like to say I was in and out of this part relatively fast, but I wasn't. Whenever I thought I was just about to make it out here and past all the fighting, these fart sniffers stopped fighting each other and decided I was the biggest threat and all turned to look directly at me. Then I came up with a great plan that would not fail. It was to kill everything in this room, basically. The plan worked after a few more deaths in this part, and we were able to be free and back outside, only to be punched right in the nads and get sent back to the last checkpoint, and to the start of the last room once again. Now you can imagine the hole I just punched through my monitor at this point, but my mama didn't raise no quitter. And after around 10 minutes of non-stop dying, we were back outside, only to go back inside the other half of this building thingy. The excitement I felt when I realised I had to go through the exact same room, just reversed, was radiating off me. But that wasn't the best news. The best news was when I fired a rocket launcher at this group of Flood, not only didn't kill them, but it pushed one of them closer to me and I got slapped so hard that it took 2 years of my lifespan in real life. In the end, I just decided to just run past all that bullshit and get into a nearby scorpion tank. It's clear up to this point I still haven't learnt my lesson about the tank, but I was under the impression that if I kept trying then it would eventually work. Pretty sure that's the definition of insanity, but I must be insane if I'm doing this. The first attempt went as well as anything else I've done in this game so far, and my luck must have been taking a gap year as this wraith one-shotted me point blank like some CSGO nerd and turned away like I was nothing. The next few attempts were pretty much the same, with the wraith one-shotting me. I never felt more violated in my life until now. I felt more violated by playing this game than that one time my workmate poked her finger in between my butt cheeks and then laughed about it. No, really, that happened. Once these wraiths had stopped hitting me harder than your mother did, we take out these knuckleheads before heading on to the part I was dreading the most on this level. The Gondola holdout ride. This part is that bad, even the shipmaster didn't want to take part in this section, and noped out before the Arbiter even pressed the button.
Bye, have a great time.
I tried to be smart here and take out the Flood with the rocket launcher early, so that they wouldn't jump down onto us, but my Stormtrooper aim decided to come out and play, and I missed all 4 rockets. Once I recomposed myself, we stood by and watched as all our elites get slaughtered in the matter of seconds, and I wasn't long to follow. I even tried to give an elite the rocket launcher, but he must have had a brain error or something, as he just stood there while the Flood ran up to him and tickled him. I even gave him a shotgun, but the fool decided to try and hit the Flood with it instead of fire the weapon point blank. It amazes me how the Covenant was even winning the war. Now the rest of the ride wasn't that much of an issue, it's just these long holdout sections in Halo 2 really drag out the game's runtime, and not in a good way either. Once the fun bus pulls up to the station, I started to get Vietnam flashbacks as this room looks oddly familiar. As we were about to claim the hard drive, it turns out Miranda and Johnson had beaten us to it. Not allowing the humans to take the hard drive for themselves, I quickly introduced myself to them, before Tartarus steals the hard drive all to himself, and then to rub his furry nads in our face even more, he pushes us down a hole for it. Honestly, Captain Keyes must have some good stuff on that hard drive, as everyone is fighting for it. As even this Venus flytrap wants us to get the hard drive back, and hatches a plan for both Chief and the Arbiter to get the pawn drive back all for himself. He splits us into 2 locations that will likely house the hard drive. The Chief gets teleported into High Cherry and sends a grunt into cardiac arrest. The Pickled Egg Truth narrowly escapes our clutches with the hard drive in his hands. It was time to give chase. Now this mission alone on normal Halo 2 Legendary is infamous for killing the player before the HUD even loads in. And with it being the longest mission in the game by far, to say I wanted to call HR and cry for help was a bit of an understatement. And with my ODST's fragile body, there was a 58.5% chance that I was not going to enjoy this. I was able to take out the first lot of brutes relatively quick, but the serotonin being deployed to my brain had now passed its use-by date, and the room filled up with more brutes that instantly clapped my cheeks. The Halo 2 checkpoint system woke up in the morning and chose chaos, as the checkpoint happened right as the brutes filled the room, and I had about a 90% chance of my outcome being death. Eventually, I got a lucky run, and I managed to hide behind one of the pillars, and take out any of these mass debaters who came close to me. Get it? Because we're in a council hall where debates happen, and they're coming at me in masses. Mass debaters. Moving on. Not only did I have to worry about the brutes berserking and have an impossible aim, but I had to deal with grunts with needlers. It wasn't until I got my hands on a carbine that I could keep the coveys at range once again. After being in the room for over half an hour of dying repeatedly, we finally were able to make some progress, but we agreed almost immediately by brutes cosplaying as the honor guard. This area wasn't too bad to deal with. I seemed to find the rhythm with the weapon combo I was using. Carbine for all the enemies as long as I was aiming for the head, but then Needler to take out the berserking brutes. As we moved down the grav lift, I managed to headshot a jackal sniper coming to ruin my day without being able to see him past my character. Upon making our way down some corridors, I immediately turned into the Incredible Hulk as I turned a corner only to get gunned down by a pair of jackals. After a call to my therapist to try and calm my nerves, we came into a round room where I swear to God, I almost put my fist through one of my monitors with the amount of deaths to happen in this room by this lone brute with a brute shot. I honestly think if he kept killing me the way he was, he could have gotten the tactical nuke from killing me alone. I lost count how many times this brute actually killed me, but eventually I was able to make it past this room and make our way down the grav lift. Now here is where the skulls signed my death warrant. As with the "that's just wrong" skull enabled, all enemies knew where I was most of the time, and at the bottom of the lift are 2 troglodytes. You can see where I'm going with this. Who, every time, without fail, were able to kill me before my feet even touched the ground. And because the Halo 2's checkpoint system has the if you die too many times in one spot you go back 2 checkpoints, I got sent back to the checkpoint where I had to do the round room again. It took me 15 minutes to clear it the first time. Even when I got back to the lift again, the exact same thing would happen. The brutes at the bottom of the lift had their spider sense tingle, and they were able to assert their dominance over me before I got to the bottom. I was here for 40 minutes, bouncing back between these 2 checkpoints like a pair of rabbits in the mating season. In the end, I ended up turning the skull off just so I could make it past this section. Now, if you feel I failed the run here, please feel free to tell me so. But, to me, I couldn't do it. I do turn the skull back on for the next mission though. But that did mean I had to repeat the whole mission again up to this point. Oh boy. Once we finally made it to the bottom of the grav lift, we started to clear out the rest of the coveys, when the unthinkable happened. The game crashed. I had no idea why the game kept crashing during this prison break section. Maybe the game was conspiring against me and didn't want me to finish this challenge. I ended up taking the night off, and after recuperating my mental health once again, and after taking my game files to court, they were ordered to allow me to pass the prison. As soon as I rescued the first lot of Marines, they were killed by a single plasma grenade. Fantastic. Hopefully the second load of Marines will survive a lot. Okay, maybe not. With a single Marine survivor, we make our way back to the lift where more coveys were coming down. I tried to take them out before they had the chance to even touch the ground, but with my ammo becoming drier than my mouth when I wake up in the mornings, we sadly see the lone Marine fly across the room. No Marines survived the prison escape.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Heading back up the lift, we are instantly greeted by a few elites who wasted no time in thrusting my body into the ground without our consent. 3 deaths later, we managed to get past these squid heads and the drones by triggering them and hiding around the corner. I didn't make it that much further before I was greeted by a noise that was enough to pucker the arsehole of even the most seasoned Halo player. Having a swarm of drones gun me down in the corridor was less than ideal. What made it even worse was the game seemed to be laughing at me, as upon respawning I was gunned down by the drones once again. After hunting down these little bastards one by one, we were able to move on to the next set of corridors, where I tried to third party the brutes and elites fighting each other. On the plus side, I was able to beat this elite in a 1v1. My confidence was soon shattered, as the next room housed a pair of hunters, and what was problematic was I didn't have a weapon to kill them fast enough before they used my own plasma grenade against me. After nearly getting sniped by Paw Patrol, Cortana picks up the Anamberclad jumping into High Charity. Believing it to be Miranda to come and help us get the pawn drive back, we rapidly float across the bridge where we are welcomed by some elites and grunts. Pressing on, I demonstrate my amazing aim by missing not 1, but 2 elite rangers that were moving at the speed of a drunken snail. This happened more than once. Honestly, my aim continues to amaze me half the time. Skipping over some bits, this outside section decided it was going to cause me some issues, with a combination of brutes with brute shots, elites with swords, and the odd sniper jackal thrown in for fun. You can only imagine the fun I had in this place. But I was able to find some solace, as I sniped some stealth elites before they were able to unalive me. Regardless, the good news continued, as we came up to the Breaking Benjamin room. Now, to say this room was a ton of fun would be misleading. There were so many ultra elites in this room that it started to feel illegal for that many to be in one place at once. I tell you what, it's a good thing I'm a metal fan. Otherwise, listening to this song on repeat for the next half an hour would have driven a sane person insane. Just when you think this room was done, more elites flooded in. And you guessed it, those elites were more ultras. I have no idea what part of my brain thought it was a good idea to use a sword against an ultra elite, as the first swing only took down its shields, and as expected, I got my cheek slapped. Due to my incompetence, that's always a reoccurring factor in my life, and around 30 minutes of dying, I eventually used the noob combo for the third and last time in this run. I did try to take out the elites without using the noob combo, but the ultra shields is just too strong, and when there are 5 of them trying to kill you at once, it just made sense to use it here. It felt cheap, but it was the only way forwards. And after 2.5 hours, with 2 game crashes, we finally beat this nightmare of a level. But we were not fast enough, as Eggman Truth hands Tartarus the pawn drive that we tried so hard to get back. As he was about to depart, the Flood make their attempt to try and steal the drive all for themselves, but were stomped on by the Yetis. They managed to take down the elder Pickled Egg, and was left behind, as he is not worthy to see what was on the hard drive. Once reactivating the That's Just Wrong skull, I'd barely left the starting area before the brutes came charging at me, causing me to blow a major blood vessel from a jump scare he gave me. We do however get a get out of jail free card when I hid behind this rock taking pot shots at the brutes, and using the sword to take down the charging ones. Things were looking good, as we were able to eventually make some progress, before Halo 2 reminded me that it was in charge, and the brutes punched me so hard that I was sent back to the start of the mission. After doing this brain rot section again, we were finally able to join up with some other elites, and begin to make a push against the brutes. Now I'm not sure who killed the Zealot elite here, me or the brute, but either way, I'm glad in Halo Reach the Zealots are buffed, as they are taken down way too fast in this game. I was left alone once again, as I watched in horror at my fellow elites getting unalived, but the only way was forward, and sometimes backwards as I backpedaled to avoid an explosive dentist appointment. Moving on, I managed to throw this absolute Olympic caliber throw of a grenade onto this brute, instantly killing the jackals looking to ruin my day even further. We give the brutes a lesson on the Obi-Wan tactic.
I have the high ground!
I was able to repeat history once again by throwing this absolute trick shot of a grenade, where I thought it was just going to go down on the floor in front of me, but ended up sticking a brute below me. If I kept throwing the grenades like this, I'm going to sign up for it to be a professional tosser person. Moving on. As we made our way outside, I started to have a panic attack, as this next part gave me so much trouble when I last played Halo 2 Legendary. This ghost section is filled with so many other ghosts who can rip my ghost apart faster than I can, and it is filled with sniper turkeys. Instead of me telling you how many times I died in this section alone, I've put together a montage of my deaths in this ghost run. That ghost run alone took me over 40 minutes. In the end, I stopped using the ghost and just sniped everything from a distance. After clearing out the local population of brutes, my blood pressure shot right back up when I saw this wraith look at me. I thought I was safe when I got up here onto the high ground, but I was quickly sent back into a fit of psychosis when I got sniped by John Wick. Well, it might as well have been John Wick, the number of times I got sniped by this demon, and just when I thought my blood pressure couldn't get any higher, the game decided to prove me wrong and send waves of brutes at me at the same time. After calming myself with a quick pee break, we are met with a few more deaths due to pure bullshit. Totally not a skill issue, I swear. But keeping myself calm, we were able to eventually make it past all the brutes and sniper goblins, and were able to arm ourselves with a rocket launcher to take down the 2 wraiths, who had been trying to shoot me this whole time. I almost had a heart attack right there and then, as when I took out the second wraith, a beam rifle shot narrowly missed my head. Not once, but twice. Grabbing a nearby beam rifle from the previous room, I gave the jackals a taste of the medicine that he— Oh wait, I did that joke already! Who is writing this script? Now this final part did take me a while to get past, as every time I thought I had dealt with everyone, there was always this one brute who I missed, and he would ruin my day even further. I think by this point I was tired, as I had done this mission and the last one back to back. So that's the excuse I'm going to go with. But I was able to hijack the ghost that comes out of this tunnel, and use it against the brutes, right before I got it stuck at the door right at the end of the mission. We were greeted by Shipmaster, who has been hiding in the Wraith since the last time we saw him, and just as we were about to put him in his place for being a coward, Tartarus is dropped off in a phantom outside the control room, as he is about to upload the hard drive full of porn to the rest of the galaxy. Honestly, I have no idea where I'm going with this porn plotline. It's paper thin, and it just seems to be getting worse as the script goes on. The Chief is just too late, as the Phantom carrying the pickled eggs and the porn drive leaves just as he gets there. But Cortana comes up with a plan to blow up the crashed ship that will destroy High Charity and the Halo Wheel. If the porn hard drive gets uploaded, that way, no one can have the content of the hard drive. Just as we're about to set the plan into action, we are interrupted by the Flood, doing their best impression of Captain Keyes' landing abilities. Now, I will say, this mission was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought fighting the Flood as an ODST was going to be slightly less relaxing as it was in Halo CE, but it really wasn't. I think what made it easy to fight the Flood in Halo 2 was the use of the carbine. One direct shot to the chest where the infection form was, and the combat forms instantly dropped. Even though the shotgun has the damage output of a light sneeze, I still found it as my go-to weapon for dealing with the flood. Maybe that's just my survival horror game instincts kicking in. Even this sword-wielding combat form, who nearly got the best of me, but little did this guy know who he was dealing with. The guy who spent 5 hours in the library as a Marine. Now, I will say I love the atmosphere of this level. In the corridors, it feels like a horror game, and playing as an ODST here made me want a flood horror game from a Marine's perspective. But regardless of what we wanted, we are slapped out of that wet dream and are forced to do this corridor again. I was, however, a little disheartened when an infection form had jumped on me and just popped. I had been avoiding them like I did in CE, thinking they were a one-way ticket to that big doggy bed in the sky. But that was not the case. Moving through the next two areas was not too much hassle. I was, however, almost in a state of shock when a rocket flood fired at me and missed, and then ended up killing himself with his own rocket. We come up to what I think is the toughest part of this mission, only because you have the flood spawning all around you, and a group of brutes and jackals camping at the back of the room. And to make things harder for myself, my brain thought it would be a good idea to have a shotgun with hardly any ammo, and a rocket launcher to bring to this section. I think most of my deaths in this room was from the flood pulling a sneaky on me, and coming up from behind. Not like that, get your mind out the gutter. After dying a number larger than the amount of brain cells I have left, I eventually just decided to run past this fight, and somehow, to my shock, that worked. Before I knew it, we were here, at the end of the level. All we had to do was get to the other side of the room, and the Chief's ODST levels were done. Sounds easy, right? That's because it was. I only died once to a brute pushing me, but apart from that, this mission was over in less than 20 minutes. The Chief had left High Charity, leaving Cortana behind, in hopes to stop the Pickled Egg Truth from getting to Earth to steal more of humanity's porn collection. You know this plotline's only going to carry over in Halo 3, right? Meanwhile, back on the Halo wheel, the Arbiter asked what that structure is, and the shipmaster explains that it was the place where the High Counselors were going to watch where the hard drive would be uploaded to the whole galaxy. The Arbiter manages to convince the shipmaster to help him stop the upload, and he agrees to help. And I'm instantly gifted a Spectre, and begin this mission how I've come to expect these missions to start. And by that I mean my first attempt didn't go to plan, as my gunner was instantly killed, and I soon followed in his footsteps as I tried to destroy the Wraith. And because the game is mean to me and didn't even give me a checkpoint, I was forced to start over. Attempt number 2, however, went a lot smoother. Having barely made it past the Wraiths, all I did, however, was sandwich myself in between 2 more Wraiths. And death. After dealing with the Wraiths, we enter the building only to find 2 Hunters and an Elite. And honestly, this part is so cool, being able to fight alongside the Hunters was a really nice touch to this level. We allowed the Hunters to go forward first, while I hide at the back with a beam rifle, like a real man should be doing. Or maybe I was just scared of the brute shots, who can say. Regardless, the Hunters made short work of the brutes, and we moved on to the caves, where I swear to you, the brutes' spider senses must have tingled, as they didn't give much attention to the Hunters, but instead decided to shoot me in the face. I was actually making good progress on my second attempt, but my little goblin brain picked up a brute shot, and when I fired it for the first time, it caused a chain reaction with the fusion cores, and I was sent into the next dimension. We finally managed to make our way past all these Sasquatches, only to come face to face with our arch nemesis, a bridge filled with jackals and drones. A true living nightmare for someone such as myself. Even with a hunter backing me up, I struggled on this bridge for a while, longer than I would care to say. But just know, it was a while. I eventually used my toilet water brain and camoed my way past these cretins, and we end up setting some prisoners free, which instantly gives us a 5-star wanted level, and the fun police trying to put a stop to us. The Hunters go down in a blaze of glory as I set free the other elites, who manages to take down the brute with his arse cheeks. Amazing. Just as we're about to steal this giant basket on legs for ourselves, the alpha male Johnson beats us to it, and I wasn't one to pick a fight with Johnson, so we just let him take it. Johnson explains to us that we cannot allow Tartar Source to upload the content of Captain Keyes' hard drive to the galaxy, as the content on there is too powerful and it will wipe out all life in range if viewed by the unprepared eyes. Honestly, this hard drive seems to be more powerful than Thanos and his Infinity Stones. We forge an alliance to stop the upload and are told to grab a Banshee. Does Johnson not understand how paper thin those things are? Either way, we steal a nearby Banshee and attempt to deal with the local population of nearby Wraiths. Now I'd like to point out that here I didn't know the key bindings for the Banshee, so I had no idea how to fire the cannon or do the stunts. That is why you don't see me doing them. It is because I had no clue how to. I could have looked up the key bindings to how to do that, but that's for normies. Instead of me telling you how many times I died here, I'll just say that it was a lot. And I was on this Banshee section for over half an hour before I decided to fly past everything and sit at the top of this structure, while I wait for Johnson's Scarab to sluggishly make his way to us and blow open the doors. We make our way inside and are greeted by an army of brutes who want nothing less to crush the dreams of a child, and that they did, a few times to be exact. After my 4th death, I remembered that you can bring the Banshee in here, and that is exactly what I decided to do. Yes, it took me a few minutes to get the thing in here, but once it was, I was instantly crushed by the doors closing on me. I have lost count how many times I had died to something silly in this run. With the Banshee inside, we managed to mop up these brute nerds, and we're able to fly away to the main chamber to stop Mr. Mohawk as he tries to force Miranda to upload the drive herself. Tartarus is shocked to see us, as he thought he killed us back in Mission 9. We try to explain to him that if he uploads the hard drive, everything will die. However, with his body full of testosterone and only having one brain cell that works overtime, Tartar ends up throwing the floating testicle at Johnson and forcing Miranda to start the upload. And here we go, the final boss fight at... where is Johnson? Did he get hit so hard by the floating ballsack that he clipped into the back rooms? Where is he? The game chose this moment to rupture my delicate aneurysm. With Johnson missing, he wasn't able to take down the Yowie shields, and I wasn't able to beat the mission. I did try to push him off the map with the Banshee that we brought with us, hoping that that would work, but he didn't die. Instead, he stood at the bottom of the map taunting me and calling me a coward. I even went as far as to replay the whole mission again just to get a beam rifle for myself to try and take down his shields. However, that sadly didn't work. It was here that my soul was crushed, and I was about ready to call it a day. I decided to leave a comment on the mod page, saying that Johnson was missing from the final boss fight, and that I still loved this mod. A few days later, I got a notification from the mod developer saying that he had fixed the issues, and that the mission should be beatable. With an injection of dopamine being deployed into my prefrontal cortex and a fresh spark of life in my eyes, I replayed the last mission again for the 3rd time, and when we got to the end, I prayed that Johnson was there. And like some gift from the heavens, there he was. Sergeant Johnson. I've never been so happy to see that man in all my life. Now, I was tempted to use the Banshee I'd brought once again, but I felt like we had earned this fight. After everything that we've been through on this run, I wasn't going to resort to cheap tactics to get the easy win. What would I be proving if I did that?
Quit stalling.
After what must have been a battle for the ages, and like Jesus Christ walking on water, we had done it. We had defeated Tartarus, and as you can see, I was so happy that I finally was able to beat him, and that I asserted dominance by teabagging the Sasquatch. With him finally down, Miranda was able to pull off some of her parkour skills before taking the hard drive out of the main beam. This forced a system error, and the ring stopped transmitting. Guilty Spark then informs us that the data of the upload is now on standby and is waiting to be sent out across the galaxy, but can only be sent out from one place: the Ark. Meanwhile, back at Earth, the Chief gives us a cliffhanger, and what seems to be the impossible: we had beaten Halo 2 on Legendary, as a Marine, and an Honor Guard. Playing this challenge was a lot of fun and tough in some moments. The total runtime was about 18-19 hours. I really enjoyed the skulls changing up the gameplay slightly. It added a new flavour to the game. Or maybe I'm just building up to that lasso run. A huge shout out to Dreary Musclefied for making this mod, and I'd like to say a big thank you to him for going back and fixing the mod at the end. You, sir, are a true legend. Now with this complete, I can now rest up and not worry about doing another... Ah, for fuck.